everyone! A new release date trailer for the upcoming Silent Hill Townfall just got revealed, and there's some fascinating new enemies, secrets, and hidden details that I can't wait to explore. We also get a name for the new female character we seen from the last trailer, and her name appears to be Zoe Ellis. So, what does this new trailer hide? Let's analyze it and find out. I mentioned it before, but I'm getting heavy Silent Hill 2 vibes from this trailer, and I think that's intentional. I actually think it's possible we could be dealing with the reverse situation of James and Mary, with Simon this time being the one in the hospital, and that Zoe Ellis is either his doctor or nurse rather than his girlfriend. In the trailer, Simon finds Zoe's address on an envelope and goes to her home. Inside her home, we find a computer and get access to Zoe's files. And inside her files, there's 3 emails. If you look closely at the emails, one of them is titled Forward for attending SURGO 4GE plus on. If we go by my previous theory that Simon is either recovering from some kind of surgery or operation, or going to receive some type of heart surgery or transplant, then it only seems logical to me that SURGO would probably mean for attending surgeon, and that the plus on would probably be for the on-call hospital staff that are working and assisting during the surgery, such as nurses. Also, if you look on the old computer monitor, you'll also see the dates on the emails, and it seems like Zoe received 2 emails in February 1996 and one more recently in October 1996 regarding the surgery. This could very well mean that Zoe is actually the surgeon that either already operated on Simon for some kind of heart surgery or transplant, or is the surgeon that is going to perform his surgery, or if not, was at least the nurse looking after him and helping him out during his stay there. It also seems like maybe Simon started possibly getting treated at the hospital or seeing Zoe in February 1996, leading up to some event later that year in October, which I believe might be Simon's surgery appointment or date of death. Ever since the last trailer with the monster constantly ripping open his chest, I still think this has to do with some kind of heart surgery or heart transplant, and this trailer solidified that theory for me. In the trailer, we see more of the IV and blood that seems to be going through Simon's arm, which seems like a blood transfusion, and from what I was able to find out online, typically anyone who has undergone heart surgery or a heart transplant will sometimes need a blood transfusion afterwards to help with the severe blood loss and to prevent anemia. Also, typically right before a heart transplant, the heart transplant candidates often receive blood transfusions in the pre-operative period before the surgery and transplant. Supposedly, this is to help with the allosensitization, which is supposed to help decrease the rate of rejection in the recipient of the transplant. I think throughout the game we are going to be led to believe that Simon is either a patient that is being prepared for heart surgery or a heart transplant, or might actually be the donor, the person giving up his heart to help someone else. However, I think later on in the story, we'll find out that Simon already had the surgery and is either in a coma from it, already dead, or is in the process of dying, and we are experiencing his final moments as he tries to come to grips with his past before he is able to move on and be at peace. I mentioned how the game seems very inspired by Silent Hill 2, and I think we might be dealing with the reverse of Silent Hill 2's story. And if Zoe is a surgeon or a doctor, then maybe Zoe killed him either accidentally in surgery or is going to be the one to pull him from life support to end his suffering if he's in a coma. If Zoe isn't his nurse or doctor though, then I think there's also a good possibility that she could actually be the recipient of the heart transplant instead. I did notice that she seemed to look very weak and pale, as if she's sick for some reason. So maybe Simon keeps apologizing because he's her donor and wants her to live by giving her his heart, but is now having second thoughts or doubts about it. Honestly, now that I think about it, if Zoe is the one that is sick and is the one that needs the heart transplant from Simon, it would be one heck of a twist if Simon already gave her his heart and that we are really playing as Zoe. That would mean that what we could be experiencing is Simon's subconsciousness or lingering spirit that is now a part of Zoe, who is reliving Simon's memories, having flashbacks of his life as his personality and consciousness might now be a part of Zoe, and he is struggling to accept his death. I would actually love it if this was the case, because as I mentioned in my last Townfall analysis, I've always been fascinated by the strange supernatural effects that people can experience when they receive a transplant. There's a really good article online that goes into more detail about how a cardiopulmonary machine is used to keep the body alive during the procedure, but how the patient's minds are technically dead when the heart is taken out and transplanted into them. It's said that while they're kept alive by the cardiopulmonary bypass machine, that the heart recipient's mind and spirit is supposedly in a purgatorial space straddling life and death. This dimension where the heart recipient resides is akin to those who have undergone near-death experiences during cardiac arrest. 40% of near-death experiences whose hearts were resuscitated after having stopped beating demonstrated some level of here and now consciousness and recollection of the event in dreamlike experiences of CPR being performed. Which means what we could be experiencing in the game itself is likely Simon's mind and spirit that is now in this purgatorial state of consciousness as he is possibly receiving the heart transplant. Or, if Zoe is the heart recipient, then this could also be what Zoe is seeing or experiencing herself through his perspective after just having received Simon's heart. In fact, from what I've read, it seems like those who receive heart transplants are actually the ones that experience the most side effects and unexplained spiritual and supernatural changes. Since humans are all emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually connected to their bodies, there can be huge effects as the heart or other organs from another body adjusts to a new body, mind, and spirit. There has been overwhelming evidence showing complete changes in personality, demeanor, habits, desires, tastes, interests, etc. that match more closely with those of the donor's personality, with the recipient sometimes even experiencing the donor's memories in visions and dreams as well. I would honestly really love to see this explored in more depth in this game, and I do strongly believe that this will be the huge twist of the game, that Simon was not the one receiving the heart transplant, but was actually the one that donated and gave his heart to Zoe, because she was the one who was sick and had heart issues. I also want to mention the computer monitor that says Red Square's email, which is pretty interesting to me. In Silent Hill 2 and other Silent Hill games, we know that the red squares were save points that typically represented the inner feelings and mental states of the main characters. For me, this strongly suggests that the red squares' computer terminals could actually be save points and also be delusions of Simon, emails that are being influenced by his warped mental state and inner feelings, and are not real emails, but are all somehow a part of his subconscious mind and memories. Next, I want to talk about the creepy underground facility we see in the new trailer. There seems to be some kind of lock mechanism with various initials, such as DH, RD, SW, TF, MC, and more. In the middle of the mechanism, we see Simon's last name, Ordell. So it could be that these initials might be the names of various patients in this hospital or institution. If so, then I can see this being some kind of complicated lock system they have in place to lock and unlock all their rooms. We also see a weird hospital room door that seems to pop up at the end of some kind of bridge or walkway with the number 204. I think this is probably Simon or Zoe's room number, 204 in the hospital. We then see Simon entering a room and seeing Zoe, who seems to be sitting or standing by a bed looking down at someone, maybe a patient or possibly even Simon himself if he's still in a coma. There's also more of this underground facility or lab that we see, such as a labyrinth or maze of corridors, with a bunch of rooms and steel doors with the numbers P01 and P06. These really remind me a lot of the rooms you see in asylums or mental institutions for people who are locked up or people who are possibly being imprisoned and being experimented on. With this huge area of underground rooms and corridors, it seems like there might be a lot more going on in this hospital that's being kept hidden and secret from the general public and townspeople. To me, this strongly suggests that the staff running the hospital or the higher-ups involved in the town might be keeping patients imprisoned underground to either experiment on them or something, or at least Simon thinks they are. They definitely seem to be hiding something, and if it does have to do with the CEG company that is on the signs in the town, then I feel like we may either be dealing with yet another cult or a corrupt company that either has been using the people of the town, kidnapping or imprisoning them deep underground if they discover the truth, and possibly using or experimenting on them in the hospital. On the other hand, though, all this misdirection about something bad going on in the town and at the hospital honestly kind of makes me believe that maybe Simon will end up spending most of the game thinking that this company, CEG, or the hospital staff, are hiding something and are doing evil and awful things to people, thinking they are the bad guys, when they are really just trying to help keep him alive. It could also turn out that CEG is not a fishing or mining company, but rather the real name of the hospital or town that he's currently in. As I mentioned in my last video though, St. Amelia could very well not even be a real town, but rather a place in Simon's mind that is based on the real-life St. Amelia or the real hospital he's staying in. My final thoughts on the trailer are the monsters we see and the dialogue we hear in the trailer. A lot of the monsters roaming in the facility seem to imply that they are patients or were possibly experimented on. We also see a creature that seems to resemble the abstract daddy from Silent Hill 2. Then we hear Zoe and Simon talking in a few brief scenes. We hear Simon apologizing, and it's interesting that Zoe mentions there being more of the monsters, which seems to hint that maybe Zoe comes with us, or at least seems to imply that she might see the monsters as well. But that could also be a red herring, and she could be talking about something or someone else entirely. I also find it really interesting how we haven't seen any other characters besides Zoe and Simon yet. In the very early teaser trailer, we did hear another man's voice talking about the town and them being guilty and being punished, but we haven't seen him, at least not yet. We also haven't seen any other townspeople yet in the town either, which means that this could be more of a psychological story like Silent Hill 2, focusing more on Simon and Zoe rather than the town of St. Amelia and its town people. While I do love a more personal, psychological horror story here, it would be a little bit of a shame if we didn't get to explore more of the history of the town of St. Amelia and see some of the other residents or townspeople, maybe even incorporating some Scottish folklore, history, or legends. Scotland and St. Monans, the town that St. Amelia is based on, is ripe with rich history, legends, ghost stories, folklore, monasteries, and ancient buildings that the developers could explore and include. But perhaps they're hiding these characters and will reveal them later on, like Fox Mask, as we get closer to the release of the game. Well, that's all I noticed in the trailer for now. It was a pretty short new trailer, so there wasn't that much new to dissect. What do you guys think of the new trailer? Do you agree with any of my theories or have any of your own? Please let me know any details I missed, or if you have any ideas about the story, characters, and what the game will be like. I'd love to hear your theories and theorize with you all in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more. You can also check out my recent video where I go into my final theories on all the unexplored mysteries of Silent Hill F that were unsolved, because I honestly think I might have solved them. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.